Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Dide Adewale and I'm glad to bring you another exciting episode today. So on this platform, as you know, we explore how economics and politics interact on the global system, and today we will discuss something people really underestimate. We're going to be discussing Britain's local elections. So, at first glance, you would think local elections, and it may seem like it's a domestic issue. It may seem like what's our business with the local politics in Britain? What's our business with the local politics? It's about it's about the council elections. So what's the big deal? But when we look more closely, this elections actually reveals much more, and it's bigger than you think. You can see things like deep economic frustration playing out in the votes, in people's votes, in the parties they've decided to vote for. You can see political realignment. Some parties have led some parties. You can see border shifts across Western democracies generally. But actually, why does this election really matter? So in Britain, local elections will often act as economic indicators, especially shows you the is it the state or the heart of the nation. It shows you the opinion of the people, or what the people at the grassroots thinks about the national government or the government in power. So there's a very huge trust indicator there as well, and you will see protest votes against national leadership, and they show how ordinary people feel economically, whether governments are maintaining legitimacy or not. And the key point here is elections are just often economic even before they become ideological. So let's move on from there. I hope you understand that brief introduction. So if you're one of the people thinking, what's the big deal? It's just a council election. It is a big deal. It's big on opinion. It's big on realignment. It's big on it's a kind of a predictable indicator. It's a kind of data that you need to analyze as an economist, as a political science student, as a politician. If you like current affairs, if you want to know how things are done around you or what the future of things will be, this election at the moment, especially if you live in the UK, it's very important. So let me start with the economic pressures to dissect the whole picture of what this is about. Normally on this channel, when we talk about economic factors, we mention things like cost of living. That doesn't change. No matter the challenge, situation, that always comes first. And that cost of living comes with energy bills, your rent bills, it comes with mortgages, food prices. And recently, in Britain, there's a bit of wage stagnation where people feel they're working harder but falling behind. A little bit of increase here and there, but it's never enough, particularly for people in Britain, in England. And we have the public services, who has always been under pressure for as long as I remember, like the NHS always under pressure, councils going bankrupt, councils not having enough money to do stuff, transportation system needing more buses, needing more staff, needing more roads, housing. There are very big public services issues that are under pressure. And obviously people are reacting to some of these things. People are reacting to some of the challenges, some of the fallout, inadequacies, lack of expectations, lack of expected outcomes. People are reacting, and most of the time it's through this local election you actually hear the big voice. So we also have tax pressure. Yes, tax pressure, because everyone is going tax to reach. Everyone is going, are you taxing migrants? Are they working? Benefits, all sorts of things. But people feel highly taxed with limited improvements, even in living standards, like bean collection, in any form of tax. This bean collection is like an example in Birmingham, where they've not had their beans picked up. If you live in Britain or around West Midlands, you'll be familiar with some of the stories that I'm using as example. So economic insecurity definitely produces dissatisfaction, and sometimes elections are the way, local elections are the way these dissatisfactions are being projected out. Let's look at the immigration side of things, which is being a very big debate internationally in Britain and even in Europe, also in US. So there's a bit of immigration and political tension, obviously. And if you see, there's the issue of who gets what and how are they getting it in Britain because of the migration process, immigration policies. Many people feel the system is being cheated, particularly in terms of indefinite leave to remain, asylum seekers, people that claim domestic violence in terms of housing. You hear comments allegedly that tell you they're giving housing to some particular people and not giving to some particular people. The conversation is very outrageous. So you see, migration has become an economic issue, housing issue, surprisingly even identity issue, political issue. It's very deep. Like it goes way beyond wanting a better economy. It's looking like there's just a divide everywhere, and immigration is like the backbone of it. And when this kind of issues come up, this kind of migration issues, when they come up, it fuels populism, it fuels anti-establishment voting, like what we saw in these local elections. It fuels distrust in traditional parties. You see long-standing parties who have been in the council over there for 100 years, and just over the few days, like, they lost their seats. So economic pressure definitely amplifies, cultural and political tension, and shapes the perspective of the whole region all at once. Like, things can change. But what exactly does this mean for Britain's economy? Because political instability will always affect economics. It will always affect policies. It will always affect decisions, and it's the ordinary people that will feel the impact. But let's see, Britain now. Let's go to Britain's economy. I think, there will be a bit of shake on investors' confidence. Policy uncertainty, fiscal pressures, tax pressures, and long-term growth concerns, because Britain is trying to balance all this economic growth, inflation, migration, public spending, and this is very difficult politically. But why should you care? Why should the world care? Why is it necessary for us to follow this turnout of events? Why is it necessary for us to understand? It's necessary because we kind of predict the future, or predict decisions that we feel will better shape the future. But one major one that will stand out is that, international relations has become so powerful, and Britain is still one of the major financial center. Britain is still a NATO power, a diplomatic actor. Britain is also an important Western economy, very, very important. Like, political shifts in Britain would affect Europe, NATO, migration policy, global markets, Western political trends. And what happens is that there will be wider Western frustrations, and where there's a wider Western frustration, there's frustration globally, whether you admit it or not. So the thing is now that this is not just only for Britain, because across many Western democracies, you will see a declining of trust. There is a very huge declining of trust, and there is populist movements. We have growing economic frustration, and there is pressure on traditional systems to perform. UN, all these things, there's a lot of pressure. So you see, there's a suggestion that the international system itself is under some form of social and economic strain, because policies are changing, people are changing, new generations are coming up with new perspectives, new technology, new insights, new ways of communication, more terror on the rise, more audacity, for choices. People are bringing their ideas out there. Countries are trying to embrace ideas out there. Evil is trying to thrive. Good is trying to oppose. It looks like some X-Men series, but yeah. So Britain's local elections are much about are more than local council, and the more about the state of the heart of the nation. So, and this has revealed how political ideas also shape the reality of economics. How just an election can shape the acceptance rejection of an atmosphere, of an economic atmosphere, of an economic event, of an economic posture, that kind of thing. So modern politics is one in which economics is not actually being able to separate itself from politics. Everyone is looking at it inwardly, and somehow local politics, especially if you're a giant like Britain, is affecting choices even on a wider on a wider regional scale. So domestic instability can definitely influence a wider international system. It can definitely influence how people vote. It can definitely influence what people think about who should be in government and how they want that person to be in government. So the election was would I say was very tough, or was very tight, because there's a lot of I'm looking for the right word to use. There's a lot of opinions, there's a lot of expectations, and there's a lot of letdowns, disappointments, especially from the current party who is in power. So this is very important. So don't think maybe, oh, it's a political issue, it's not an economic issue. It is an economic issue. You'll be wondering, how is the Reform Party gaining more seats? How is that an economic issue? It is an economic issue, because migration is at the undertone of all of these things, and it's affecting every major political structure, every major policy backbone and structure in the United Kingdom. So what will it be for Britain? I want to know your thoughts and ideas. What would it be? Do you think that migrants should get ready and brace up for heavy policies, or you think that there will be a political party that will come into power and balance things up and kind of, how would I say it, reduce the tension around immigration affecting every spillover policy? So, or you think that with the way things are going, Britain is heading towards a weaker institutions? Because if you see the turn of events and the people that came out to campaign, the people that nominated themselves, that came out to campaign, some of them were independent, some of them belonged to new parties, some parties that we thought that they were not even going to get numbers, had increasing numbers this time around. Conservatives did better than they did the last time, though still a bit far behind the Reform. Labour's lost a lot of seats. So how do you think the institutions will cope with this, knowing that the people that are heading the institutions or working in the institutions might have some nationalist ideas, some funny ideas that might not really help the whole diversity in Britain? So I'm carefully trying to choose my words, just because everything is just so unpredictable and things can change at any time. It's all about policies, it's all about politics, it's all about economics, it's all about ideas and opinion that would thrive, and what would actually bring about a better system for Britain. So let me know your thoughts, drop them in the comment sections. Until I see you again, you take care. Bye for now.